done my time and served my sentence. Dress me up and watch me die. If it feels good, tastes good, it must be mine. Dynasty decapitated, you just might see a ghost tonight. And if you don't know now, you know. I'm taking back the crown. I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it. Oh yeah, the crown.
Howdy, y'all. Y'all just summoned the Western Demon today. We're going to have some fun with this, doing a live on this one to help get some attention to a Kickstarter that's going on out there. We're going to go ahead and make sure we got this shared out to several places, get some more people in here, and then we're going to get going on this very shortly. So if y'all just kind of bear with me just a moment, want to make sure that everyone knows this is live. We're over here on the Tube of You because the Book of Face doesn't play fair, so we're playing over here. So let me go ahead and make sure everything is set up on my end, and then we will get going on this very shortly. If y'all can see and hear me, you're in the audience over there, go ahead and let me know, and that way I'll know that's at least working very well on here, and then we'll get going here very shortly with that. I certainly appreciate y'all taking some time to be here. We're going to have some fun today. I can tell you that right now. It's going to be an interesting little time that we're going to have on here. Because if you can't have fun in what you're doing, then what's the point at all? Let's see. We got shares. We got all kinds of stuff going on over here. Excellent. So it looks like people know that we're over here. So let me go ahead and make sure that is set up. All right. So we are live over here for a special hell of a show. This is not the regular time by any means. Don't think that you're looking at things wrong. It is not Monday night at 8 p.m. Central, even though we did do a time change. It's not that much of a difference. I mean, it's, it's a little bit different. It's not that much. So again, thank y'all for being here, and thank y'all for coming in and participating in this and all. And let's see, not a problem. So, all right, my guest is taking care of something in the background right now. So y'all got me up here, so I can tell some dad jokes. I can do a little dance or whatever we got to do. I can have some fun with it. But we are going to get into talking about his project whenever he gets up here. We're going to be talking about this thing behind me right here, the return of Jake Sunrise. Hence why I'm wearing the hat, hence why I'm wearing the old school glasses that I can, not really see out of. But hey, what you got to do to go ahead and make sure that the guest is happy with what's going on out here. That's the big thing. So let me see. We've got, make sure everything is set up on my end while he is waiting. If you're up here and you want to have, let me know. You can see and hear me. I'd certainly appreciate that. And then let me know that we're getting this shared out as well, because we definitely want to get this shared out and make sure that we've got the maximum amount of people that can come in and see this as possible. It's kind of a time issue is why we're really kind of pushing on this. And let's see, so let me let everybody know on a couple of posts. And yes, I am having fun getting kind of a little bit dressed up for this one and things, because I am from Texas. Wasn't born there, but I was raised there. So y'all are going to get a lot of that twang in today. So I apologize ahead of time for nothing. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. We're going to have some fun with this and try to get some more people to knowing what's going on over there on the campaign and see what's happening. I believe it's in its last 2 days that are on there. There is a reason that I am doing this out of regular time zone, schedule and everything, and setting it up this way and doing a live. I actually made a bit of a mistake. Well, it wasn't actually my mistake, but I'm still making good on it. We did a pre-recorded with my guest, and we did this probably almost 2 weeks ago. It's been about a week and a half, and we were supposed to drop this thing within a week. Good, and make sure he had more people seeing what was going on and get some excitement going on over there. The this that I'm using, StreamYard, actually kind of oopsied on that one, and they ended up deleting quite a few of my pre-recorded shows that were on there. And his was the most time sensitive. So in order to make good on it, I had to go ahead and come on up here and say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and do a live. We're going to make good on this thing. And he got a little excited about this one. So him being excited, I got excited. I went ahead and got my hat out, got my glasses out. I'm not wearing, spurs or boots or anything, but I am wearing pants, and they are jeans. So I'm not actually pantless on this one. We actually have jeans on. We're talking about a fancy show tonight. I mean, pinkies up or down or however you do it, wherever's the proper way of doing things. But before we go ahead and get too far into this, we're going to go ahead and bring my guest up on here because it looks like he is ready to come on up here and have some fun and get to talking to y'all. So here is Dean Page.
How's it going, everybody?
What's up, Dean? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, whenever you're taking care of some business and everything, I had some issues on my end, and I want to make good on this. So I said, you know what, we're going to try to get together and get you a live show so we can get some excitement going and get in there in the last 2 days you got left on your campaign, correct?
Yeah, 48 hours down to the end.
So go ahead and let them know. Give them that pitch. Let them know what you got going on over there, and then we'll delve right into this thing.
Well, The Return of Jake Sunrise is the first comic I've ever done, and it's the first issue of the series. So don't let the title fool you. This issue is called The Dead Draw, and it's about a bounty hunting werewolf, that's Jake Sunrise, who is also speechless. He doesn't speak at all. And so he's kind of a mystery character, and so the stories often will center around whoever he's interacting with, almost like the survivors' tales, those who have met him before. And over the 6 issues, every issue is going to have a different artist, and you'll sort of get to know a little bit about his character. Like, you kind of have to piece together who he is as you're reading the story because he doesn't talk. Mm-hmm. And you'll have to kind of get a sense of, maybe what order the issues happen in, based upon certain objects he has, certain, his effects kind of change from issue to issue, and that kind of gives hints to the order. And it's really cool because the 3rd issue is probably, I think, one of the funnest looking ones because it's very cartoony. The artist is based out of Italy. Veronica Sarcano, I think is how you say her name. And but it's a very vicious issue. It's about a vampire circus and a kidnapped Sasquatch, and it's a very bloody story. People getting their heads blown off, but it's all in this very cartoony style. You know what I mean? And then issues 1 and 2 almost have more of like an anime manga sort of influence on the style. Mm-hmm. And 5 and 6 are 2 American artists. And you can kind of feel the Americanness difference. You get a sense of where these, like, I don't really have a sense in my head of what Italian art looks like for comics. Mm-hmm. But the other 2 artists for issue 1 and 2 are based out of the Philippines for the first issue and Vietnam for the second issue. And I've been working with them for months. So how I kind of started on my production end was I wanted to kind of be able to show off the whole idea, not just like one issue, but a sense of all of them. So I took the first 6 to 10 pages of each issue, kind of the first act, and contacted an artist for each, and started out by just having them do a cover, what I kind of called a digital cover, which is kind of like what's behind you, where I could figure it fit on a screen. It could be a trailer thumbnail. It could be a background for whatever. And then I'd also get a sense of their style. And, funding a comic ain't cheap. So on the opposite end, it's also kind of like you're getting an expensive character sketch. So you're designing the character as you go, and then I started just having them work through the issues and kind of got a sense of how do I work with this person. So I would know, like, what is our pacing going to be like? What's their availability going to be like? How often are edits necessary and that sort of thing? Is there going to be any language barriers? Because I only know one language, so I'm useless in that sense. And most of them, all of them, are perfectly capable of interacting in English. So lucky for me.
There you go.
And the colorist is based out of Argentina, so it's like we're hitting all these different continents. Just working online with them, and then for the cover. It's like split a little bit between two colorists. One's based out of Netherlands, and the other's actually right down the street for me. Not literally, but in the same county in New Jersey. So that's pretty wild. We were actually, it was so funny. We were both at the same comic convention the other day, but we didn't actually get to interact.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we didn't run into each other because when I saw her, but I was looking for my cousins. So I was like, let me go get them first because I want to bring them with me. And by the time I found them and came back, she had gone and grabbed lunch. So I hung out with her husband I think it's her husband for a little bit. And because I just gotten, this was the issue that made me want them for the artist. On Outwash Onslaught.
Yes.
And I was just like, the color on that is superb. And so is the art, but I already had the line work done.
Yeah.
So I pulled it out and I was like, hey, I just got this right before I came here. Can you sign it? So I got her husband to sign it. And I was like, sweet.
Nice. I actually had him on as a guest as well on the show. It was awesome with that too.
Oh, that's awesome. Chris Madd, he's a cool guy.
Oh, Chris Madd is excellent as far as artist, yes.
Oh, and yeah, and his art. I was looking at his stuff. I was like, these are just sketches. Yeah. He was like, yeah, I'll do those when I'm sitting here sometimes. I was like, that's sweet, man.
Yeah, and Shauna's following right in the footsteps on there too, and just dominating on that area as well.
She's got a real strong control of like what she's doing. And being together must make it easier because they can probably communicate what they were thinking to each other too, and that's got to help.
Oh yeah.
And communication's key. I mean, that's what I find. You know, when I was starting out, I started writing this like it was a short story. So for any like aspiring comic writers that are maybe watching, like I was just writing it like it was prose, paragraphs, like I was reading a short story or an essay or something. And then the artists didn't say anything. They were just like, okay, I'll work with it, I guess. And I'd done page breaks, but that was about it. Like maybe this could all go on the first page. But then I started working with an editor. He just did a Kickstarter, Berserker Monk. I haven't got it in the mail, or I'd pull it out and show it. But he is shipping it. It's in the printers. And I got him for an editor, and because I didn't know which order I wanted to have the stories. I kind of had a sense of what order they take place in, but I didn't necessarily think that was the way to tell them. So that was one of the main things I wanted to work with an editor on. And he really helped me kind of organize it and think about like different beats in the story and where I might be missing some things. Because what I'm really trying to do with these stories is tell a whole story in every issue, so that people can pick it up, read the whole thing, and have a done story. And if they don't like it, they don't have to buy the next one. And they still finished the story. It wasn't just like they read the beginning of a story, you know?
What we're talking about here, I'm actually going to show some of the art because I have some of that here as well. But here's the link. Made it real quick, real easy on there. You don't actually have to memorize what's on here. Just go to your link that's in your feed whenever we're done, of course. You know, if you want to wait that long, if you want to jump over there right now and then come back, we're good with that too. We don't judge. But just go check it out, see what you like over there. But that's going to be real quick and easy to go to. Like I said, it's already in the feeds. So it made it real simple because this is the kind of stuff that you're looking at. Let me show a few of the, I got a couple of the covers here I want to show off. We're going to show some interiors, and then we're going to show some other things that are available in there as well. So, I mean, this is what we're talking about for this. The reason I'm kind of dressed up is because this is based around a Western. But as you can tell, this is not your regular, I don't think I ever saw Clint Eastwood go up against that. I mean, if I did, he actually tore it to smithereens, I'm sure. But yeah, I never saw that. So this is kind of a different take on a Western with a horror, with a very, it's almost like a Bernie Wrightson feel on that cover right there alone to kind of give you that aura of what you're getting into. So tell us kind of a smaller pitch about what the story is without giving away too much, of course.
Sure. Well, it's in the genre of Weird West, which is like a horror Western blend, right? And there's not necessarily a set of rules in these types of universe. So the pitch for me would just be that, you know, this is about old vaquero, which is the original cowboys, who's got a werewolf curse, and he's kind of just trying to figure out how to deal with it and sort of understand where it came from. The series that I'm really trying to work out is this broader universe called Low Midnight of the Mind, which is a Western horror universe. But I want it to be less kind of about the lore of mythos and stuff like that, and more about what do these monsters mean to us symbolically.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, what is a zombie? What does that represent for us? You know, a lot of my background's in psychology. I'm a school teacher, but I studied a lot of psychology and dream theory and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily put much stock in, but it's interesting. And I love more learning about like Joseph Campbell's Hero with a Thousand Faces, all that kind of universal myth and stuff, and what do things mean to us? You know, because for some of the mythos, it has a spirit, it has a religious connection to certain cultures. And so, you know, those ones I'll probably just leave alone because, you know, if people are still believing in that, you know, I don't want to mess around with it too much and play with it. But I figure werewolves, vampires, Sasquatch, you know, those are probably free game that I can play around with. Probably ancient Egypt, although I'm still trying to figure out how I can get a mummy into the Old West. I'll figure it out. I got a reanimated corpse that's kind of like Frankenstein's monster, but with like a different, it's not necessarily a doctor trying to figure out how to raise the dead for science sake or whatever. And that's in the second issue. So this one has mutant hillbilly corpses, or sorry, cannibal mutant hillbillies. There we go.
Yeah. That right there, I mean, that if that's not a draw to go over there and check this thing out, I don't know what is, because, you know, cannibal mutant hillbillies, that's right there.
It's personal, you know, being from Jersey, I'm terrified of rural people being a suburban knight. I'm more comfortable with city folk as far as if I'm alone, you know, although I love hanging out with all types of people. But it's just crazy because just to think about movies like Deliverance and stuff like that, it always gave me the creeps. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is so freaky. The Hills Have Eyes. You know, and so I was like, I want those as the creatures. And, you know, you learn pretty early on in the story that they kind of became the way they were because of environmental destruction, essentially. So it's kind of, I'm also exploring the idea of Westerns. You know, I really loved the movie Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yeah.
And that movie's about a guy going across country on his train, this rich dude, and he just wants to like own a specific location because that's where the train has to go and he's going to make a lot of money. And once the train goes all the way through, he's going to just have it all locked up. And that's kind of a lot of the history, you know, I'm a history teacher, and that is a lot of how the history happened. You know, I'm trying to remember, there was one, I believe, with Kevin Costner that was essentially about the idea of fences and how, you know, they only started putting up fences after, and that really wrecked all the cattle ranchers. You know, and so, and I think of all that, and then also, of course, the Native American genocide and all that stuff, and think about, you know, what was this whole area, what did it mean to these people, but more importantly, what does it mean to us today? Like, why are we so fixated on certain eras of American history, specifically, like cowboys we love like 1920s detective kind of stuff. We love pirates. I always think of them as American, even though they're not really technically, most of them at least. I think Blackbeard was. Although back then they probably just thought of themselves as English or whatever. But why do we fixate on these certain periods? And for me, it's all about freedom. It's about this openness that they must have experienced, but then also thinking of how contradictory that was with what the empire was doing to the people who were already there. You know, and like, there's a horror to that for me. You know, there's that, and I wanted to bring out that sense of horror in American history, along with that sense of like open freedom. And then how do you square those two when you see it face to face? Because I imagine a lot of those people were seeing it face to face quite often, living out there, you know, and also this, like how, you know, a lot of America used to be Mexico. And so it was almost doubly imperialized in a sense, right? It was like switching hands constantly at the beginning. And how would that affect the culture, you know? Because we don't really know as much as we think we do about the people of the Old West. It's like they say the victors tell the stories or whatever, right? But it's really just the people who knew how to read and write, which back then wasn't necessarily everybody and wasn't necessarily the common folk.
That's absolutely right. And it's cool that you're telling the story and you have inner pieces of the story along with it. So the more, it's like you can go through and you can skim through this thing and you're happy with it because it's gorgeous art. I mean, the story is there, it draws you in. But if you really want to just dive into it and start taking it apart while you're doing it, it has other, layers to it besides just the upper layer there. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like last time we talked. Yeah, exactly. Like, because first and foremost, and it's a lesson my friend taught me early on, which is that like, you can have it as heady and intellectual as you want, but if it's not a fun, good time, like what good is it? It's not that you're necessarily selling out. It's more just like, why are people bothering with art if it's just all it does is make them think? It should also make them have fun, So start from fun and then you shoot the other stuff in there, like the damsel in distress in this story isn't necessarily a damsel in distress. So it kind of plays on that trope and critiques it slightly. I'm not trying to do an Alan Moore where I'm deconstructing a genre or something like that, but I do want to kind of do something that's in the tradition of comics. I love comics, but then also be thinking about like, what kind of stuff do we do with comics that looks goofy now from a modern perspective? When we look back on it, we're like, man, that's so goofy. Why did they do that? And they might have thought it was goofy back then too. Who knows? Maybe it was funny to them.
And a lot of those nowadays are worth a lot of money. So,
so they still have some kind of value, right?
Exactly.
But I don't know. As far as me, when I think about where my love of comics comes from, like I've tried to go back and read Stan Lee's early X-Men, never clicked with me. But Chris Claremont, oh boy, like the Dark Phoenix saga is what got me into comics as a kid. Like I grew up in the 80s and I would read his stories and sometimes I'd be like, I'm not really sure what's going on because I was probably like 10 or 12. But I still knew it was cool and I still got enough of it to feel like I was learning from it. I feel like that's where my love of learning came from. I don't think I would be a teacher necessarily if I had never read comics.
And for all the boomers that'll be watching this thing or are watching this thing, I'm gonna let everybody know that the movies, just ixnay that. That was not the comics. I just want to throw that out there right now. What they did in the movies was not. So go and read the comics, read the Dark Phoenix saga over there. Then you'll just be as upset as the rest of us old guys are right now with all this.
I mean, sometimes I think the reason I can enjoy like the Avengers movies is because I never liked those comics. Whereas like X-Men, I stopped watching the movies. I dreamed it my whole life about watching X-Men movies. And then when I saw like by the third one, I was like, oh no. I kind of liked First Class, and then I saw a few others. I don't think I saw the last one or two. I was just like, I'm done. Don't ruin my childhood.
Yeah, still going through therapy. No, don't do it.
Right? Like, I mean, I like Hugh Jackman for it, but I also think, growing up, Wolverine to me was 5'2" or whatever. He's a very short man. He's not necessarily attractive, even though he's a ladies' man. He's just kind of a muggy looking dude that looks like he's been knocked around a lot.
I mean, I like the way that Hugh Jackman portrayed him.
Yeah,
actually did well for me. It was as close to Robert Downey Jr. Being Tony Stark. I mean, it's a have-to position. So as soon as they started mentioning about replacing Wolverine, it was like, ooh, I don't see anyone else that can do that. I cannot see it. And the people that they're talking about, I'm just kind of cringing, going, please tell me that's just false news.
Are they doing a prequel?
Well, they're doing well, I mean, it's the X-Men, so it's not really a prequel, sequel, whatever. It's just a different time frame that they snap and they go into. You know how that goes with that.
I mean, it would be kind of funny. I doubt they'll ever do it. But imagine if Chris Evans, because his, Sabretooth's first appearance was in Captain America.
Yep.
So what if they did kind of that story and then pulled in Wolverine? That would be sweet. Yep. Just like a lost story of Captain America. From his past that they just never told us, some random mutiny fought.
I mean, right now they've got enough stuff to last them for I think 5 years worth of movies going into it and everything. The ones that's having issues right now is DC, but luckily they just pulled in an ace in the hole by going ahead and getting Gunn over there. So we're going to see what happens with that one because they need some love over there big time.
And they need someone like that kind of has a sense of how to play with it. Like Josh Whedon when he started, or Jon Favreau when he started. I mean, that dude walked right into Mandalorian. He knew what he was doing. He knows how to handle this kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, Favreau is the one who did the, Iron Man 1. So, and that was
Right.
the one that was thrown out there as basically saying, this is our last ditch effort. Try it if you want to, because we're not real worried about it one way or another. It's going to do whatever. And it ended up being absolute gold on so many levels. And, he got so much praise from it and everything. He was just like, I lucked out. I mean, that's what he said in his interview. He was like, I just lucked out on this one. I saw what I wanted to see. I put it out there because I was allowed to put out whatever I wanted at the time with no one hovering over my shoulder. And this is what you got. And it was like, ooh, that was a good job.
I mean, it is nice when no one cares, like it makes a huge difference, like running a Kickstarter and looking at kind of what succeeds and what sort of genres take, you start to kind of think, do I want to be a comic writer or do I want to write my comic?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not judging either one, because if you want to be a comic writer, that's great, but then you shouldn't try to write your comic.
Right.
You should try to write what it looks like the people are reading.
Mm-hmm.
Like furries are big. Write some anthropomorphic animal that's all sexy, right? You can pull a ton of cash doing that.
Oh yeah.
And if that's your passion, then you're just lucky. If that's your passion right now, you're lucky, because that you could make a ton right now doing that stuff. And if you're good at drawing it too, oof. But but if I want to just do my story, I have to be satisfied with, not necessarily being successful doing it. And I'm a teacher, and what I do is like, and my advice to people, especially if you're a writer looking to do a Kickstarter comic, is that's not a cheap endeavor, because you got to pay your artists, you got to pay your colorists, you got to pay your flatter, you got to pay your letterer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then I don't think I mentioned my letterer. I think he's based out of Spain. I'm not sure, or Italy.
Well, you're covering all kinds of the parts of the gold.
Yeah. Oh, and he also worked on an awesome book that I can't wait to get, Star Noir, that had a really successful campaign. And he's the letterer on that one too. I don't think that's how I found him. But yeah, it's funny where you see these guys working in other books too, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. It's a cool connection. But yeah, back to what I was saying, that like, you can kind of figure out, like, do you want to be your type of writer, or do you want to be a writer, right? Like, and I think that you shouldn't let that hold you back either way. If what you really want to be as a writer, then just don't worry about writing what you want quite yet. Hold off on that, because anyway, the first few things you're going to write should be the worst things you ever write. So hopefully you just push out the first few to get your juices flowing, and also get your skill set going, get working on your skills, practicing. And then as far as funding the comic, get 2 or 3 extra jobs. Like I on top of being a school teacher, I also teach guitar. I also deliver pizzas. I'm doing whatever I can to raise as much, because I wasn't just making one issue. I was trying to make the first act of 4 issues and the first issue. So really like 2 full issues, sort of, but also some cover art, also all that kind of other stuff you can put on promotionals. Like I had a 3D model made that's going to be featured. This is at the highest tier. So I don't know how well you can see that with the lighting.
Oh, I got you covered. Watch this. Boom!
Oh, nice. There you go. And I just got my second one. The first prototype, the hat was like a little thin, because I think how the artist did it, and he's the same guy who did the logo. He's based out of the US. I think he actually put the hat on the guy, so there was spacing under the hat.
Yeah.
So the hat like kind of crumpled a little bit. So on my prototype, I actually had to kind of reconstruct the front of the hat. So I just got my second one. It's still for anyone that wants to see behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Oh, hang on, let me get full screen. There you go.
You can kind of see that it came out of the printer. So now I got to cut off all these things, sand it down. But that's how this other one came, so I just happened to paint this one. And then put like little felt bottoms on them, all that kind of stuff. And so, if you're a writer and you really want to do your comic, you got to fund it. And so if you're not blessed with a high paying job or wealth, you're going to have to get 2 or 3 jobs. And I don't think that's not a bad thing. You'll come up with some story. You'll meet some cool, interesting people and have cool new story ideas. Oh, but that's actually something I didn't even think about. I'm 41, and even as kind of, an adult, I wasn't thinking about the other steps. You know, it started with, ooh, I'm going to write this story. And that's awesome. But then you got to start thinking like, well, what can I do to prepare? And in hindsight, the only thing I would have done was started getting 2 or 3 jobs sooner. So that way I could have stopped quicker, you know, instead of like being in the middle of it during a Kickstarter campaign. That makes it so hard. I'm like trying to promote it while I'm like in between deliveries and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know,
I see a lot of your
if you
stuff
love
up
it.
there. I mean, I see a lot of your posts that are up there, and they're in a lot of different areas, which is great because you're trying to get the different market, you know, views that are out there, and trying to get, you know, the horror element and the Western element and the comic element, and just getting more and more eyes on there. And it's good because, as goes with sales, for every 100 people that step through the door, you know, into a retail building, 10 people are going to make a sale. So
Yeah.
you always want to make sure you get enough of those high numbers up there so you can make sure you get enough people to stick on there. But what I want to kind of ask you is coming out here with your first thing that's out here, you're already getting a decent following, you know, from your first one going and hitting the ground running on this. How do you go ahead and plan on not only keeping the ones you got on here now, but reaching out to new ones on the next campaigns that'll be coming out?
Yeah, that is the one concern I have, is fishing in the same holes. You know what I mean? Yeah, it might already be fished out. And it's like, well, then what else can I do? So my plan was that this Kickstarter is going to help fund the physical production. So that's not paying the artists. I already paid them. That's out of my pocket. That this is paying for the physical books, for the physical pins, for the physical bookmarks, for the postcard art, all the extra goodies, and also to print the comic and print extras. So that way I can take these around to conventions, take them to comic stores. You know, I'm in Jersey, which is like the most densely populated state in the country. So there are a decent number of comic stores, and just go around, try to pitch them there, try to go to conventions. Conventions are a little, you know, it's kind of give and take, because the risk of a convention is you're paying for your booth, your table, and it's more money depending on how many people are going to walk through that door. So then you got to figure, am I going to, you know, cut even? Am I going to break even? Am I going to make a profit off this? And then if you sell them at stores, the store gets a cut. And then if you start going through distributors, the distributor gets a cut, right?
I usually don't do this, and I hate doing this to guests and everything. I'm going to interrupt you very quickly on this one.
Sure.
I'm going to let you know, I just brought your project up here. You are funded, sir. You just
Oh,
funded.
nice. Thank you. Awesome. 100%. That's so cool. Perfect.
So I just want to let you know, because that's great news on there, because you were close to it. And then while we're on here, that thing just funded. So that is awesome. 76 backers strong so far, 46 hours to go. So we still got some time on this to reach into some more stuff. You just got the goodies in. I saw the post on that one, and I had like drool coming down a little bit. Some good looking stuff that you got in.
Yeah. We got some pins. I mean, I'm not really trying to sell the shirts, but if people want shirts, it's there as an add-on, and I'll just be ordering them straight like how I bought mine. But as far as like the pins and stuff, I have one on my jacket. It's the sun pattern. I have the low midnight logo, which is like a red moon with white claw marks going through it. The bookmarks are kind of cool because they're double-sided. So it's like on one side you got the werewolf, and on one side you got the man.
Oh, nice.
A little cool tassel.
I think this picture here, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, that's the sun right there with the 3 eyes.
Yeah, that was such a weird design. And in fact, something that just happened recently, because I have issue 1, 2, and 4 fully written. Issue 3, I have all the issues plotted out, but as far as fully scripted, the first issue, or the third issue, I have the first act written, but I haven't written the script for issue 5 and 6 yet. So I'm still planning out the details, which is great, because now what I'm doing is kind of taking pieces from the other 4 issues and figuring, how do I want to sort of tie them together without making it that they're not self-contained anymore. Right. And one idea I had is I saw the pin. When I saw the pin for the sun, I was like, I actually want to put that in the story.
Yes.
Because that was just something that Randy came up with. He's the guy who did the bust. He did the logo. And I want him to draw issue 6. So since he's going to be the one drawing that issue, I want to have that the issue where that thing's physically in the story, and have some meaning and some sense of what yeah, like why is it there? And sometimes I think it's fun, and hey, it's a great tradition of comic books to come up with an explanation after the fact.
Oh, absolutely. Plus, you got,
And any writer who doesn't think that's true needs to learn more about the history of
oh,
comics.
yeah, because you've got the readers are actually having a chance to go through and interpret how they think. And then once you tell them, they have to go, wait a minute, let me reread this one more time. And they see not only the way that you interpreted the way you wanted it, but they see how theirs played into it as well. It's just a great fantasy element to have on there because now you're both kind of almost working together, even though it's your project and they backed it. They're still helping out on that end, just with the mind, the power of the mind on that.
Right, it's so much more interactive. And they used to have like the editorials in the backs of comics, right? Where like people would send in letters and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of a cool interaction. And nowadays it might look different. Maybe it's that the writer has a YouTube channel or something, and people come on there. They talk to them through there, so they know the personality. Or it could be they have a Twitter account. It could be any number of things. Just because it seems like things change, sometimes they don't have to. We can still have that same relationship. I just think that I think a Wolverine's claws were originally just supposed to be in his gloves.
Yeah.
And while I'm not necessarily a fan of him having a real name and a backstory, that probably says more just about what era I read comics in, which was Chris Claremont's era, where the fun was that he could make up a bunch of stories and some of them could have just been memory implants. Who cares? And that's totally a genius from a writer's perspective. That's a genius plot device because now you could put Wolverine in any story, and why wouldn't you? And then have a lot of fun with it. And so I think people reading about Jake Sunrise might get a sense that a little feel of Wolverine in it. I don't know if it's there. I didn't put it in there on purpose, but growing up, he was always kind of my biggest hero. And also, how do you write a story about a guy who can't be killed? Where's the drama?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like writing Superman. It's almost in some ways harder because you could just make something as strong as Superman.
Exactly.
And I felt like that with a werewolf. How do you have a werewolf protagonist in a series?
Right.
One movie might work, but after a while, it's going to start being like Voltron, where you're like, why didn't they just call out Voltron at the beginning? Why did they mess around with the lions for so long?
And the thing about, introducing horror into Westerns, I mean, yes, it's been done before, but whenever you start looking at the psychological thing on there, they don't have a library, very easily to get to find out, the lore of how to, kill one of these things or how to combat, these different creatures that are going to be in these. They're looking at, hey, I've got to try something. Oh, that didn't work. Let's go ahead and try something else if they live through it, of course. So they got, keep trying different things and then learn from that and then pass that information along. That's about the only way they could do that, which is whenever you think about it, that's really kind of putting their backs against the wall where they can't get out. And yet it's just the power of just pushing forward, never stopping, that actually, pushes them along with that. So I can definitely see just in the small amount that you sent me to go over on this, to have some reference and everything. That's my vision on that. So again, we're kind of looking at, what the reader looks at, what your interpretation is and how it plays together. That's just what I'm seeing so far without even seeing the entire thing so far.
Yeah, I love hearing that. I think you brought that up in our last conversation, and I thought that was genius because it's, when you think of a lot of horror movies, there's always that scene where they go to the library or they're on the internet and they're trying to find out how to kill this thing or what is this demon. Sometimes there's a whole character where that's their skill set, right? Is they can look it up. Yep. But these guys didn't have that, and they didn't have electricity. So at night, it was night.
Yeah.
It was dark, and you couldn't always explain what those things were. And it wasn't like their ancestors had been there for centuries. So I don't know if a lot of people have heard coyotes at night, but they are freaky sounding, and they don't always sound the same.
No.
And so I wouldn't even know if people would realize that those are the same animals half the time. Yeah, if they were new to the land, like the Europeans were, you know what I mean? How would they be thinking about this stuff? Or if they saw a big beast, they didn't just say, oh, that's a Sasquatch. No, that was a werewolf. It's not like they know what they're looking at. And you know, I think that that's such a cool approach to take to these things, because people are highly adaptable.
Mhm.
And I think that's also kind of a bit of a curse, because oftentimes we put up with things we don't need to for too long, but because we adapt around it. But on the plus side, we can. That's our skill set. You know, is our ability to adapt and change and communicate.
Yes.
Working together, that sort of stuff. And yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think that that's our real power. You know, like that's kind of a lesson I try to teach to. I work with some pretty rough students, and like a big lesson I try to teach to them is like, individually, we're not really that strong. Like, there's only, you know, especially when they're kids. I'm like, why are you trying to be tough? You're just a kid.
Yeah.
But I said, you know, our power is our communication. Our power is our ability to adapt.
Yes.
So don't put your foot down. Adapt. Adjust. You know.
Exactly. And what I wanted to bring up is, this is something that kind of really stood out to me is you see a lot of these things, and you see the notorious damsel in distress, and you're like, okay, you know, she's gonna twist her ankle, she's gonna, you know, do whatever, fall into the arms of the beast, you know, the creature or whatever, and then, you know, she's got, you know, the only way that she's gonna get out of there is to have 27 men, you know, try to go in there and save her, and they all die because they're trying to save the damsel in distress. And well, yours is a little bit different because and of course this is a picture of her here, but she is not so damselish, shall we say. She was actually she's got a little bit of power to herself as well, whereas she fights to survive. She doesn't, you know, sit around going, I don't want to break a nail. There are too many of those stories that are out there, and again, no judgment on that, but you got to have something that stands out a little bit more, and this one definitely does, because it shows that mentality in the Old West of survival of the fittest. And it was all the way to the nth degree of, doesn't matter if it was man, woman, child, survival. That's all it was. And you learned it at a very young age and just had to run through there. And you're actually showing that in this story. And I really like that you did that you're able to take that and have her as a powerful character in there.
Yeah, she's definitely not waiting around for anybody to save her. I think she probably learns a lesson that I think a lot of people back then and even today sometimes take too long to realize, which is like, nobody's coming along.
Mm-hmm.
It's on you. So how are you going to get out of this? And she uses what she has, you know, and she's looking out for herself, and she'll get the help she needs if people are willing to offer it. And, you know, she doesn't necessarily mean she's going to give them what they want in return. And, you know, at the same time, she's got Jake Sunrise with her, and she's not necessarily 100% sure what to make of him. So on the one hand, she needs him, but on the other, she's not relying on him.
No. Plus, she doesn't actually, it seems like there's not a lot of trust because, I mean, of course, he doesn't speak. So she's kind of on the fence of, okay, is this a, you know, psycho killer here that I'm, you know, aligning with to try to get out of the situation? You know, what's going on with this? But also as a reader, you're kind of going through going, is he just rude, or is he actually, you know, a psychotic killer? Is he, you know, a good guy, bad guy? What's going on with this guy? And it really gets your mind going because, again, interpretation starts kicking in and you don't know how to go with this thing. I love how you did that, where you made one of the main characters silent. And I mean, to the point of the artwork has to speak for him or there'd be absolutely nothing.
Yeah, there were a few times the artist teased me eventually because he'd send me some pages and my only notes would be like, hey, could you change his expression on panel 3 and make it look like this? And he's like, okay. And he was always okay. But and then eventually he was just like, you really care a lot about what Jake's face looks like. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I need him to be expressive, but it's also tough because he's stoic.
Yeah.
So that he's not shown a ton of facial expression as just a rule of who he is. But then on top of that, he's not talking. So it's also sometimes body language. And I could tell that by the end of the issue, this artist just like knew exactly, like less and less notes as I went, you know. It was just like at the beginning I had a bunch of things, and then by the end of it was just like, yes. Yes, you know exactly. Whereas with the female protagonist, it was the opposite. I wrote this character because me and this artist had worked on a previous story together for something I'm still working on that's going to be like a web comic with music and voice acting and stuff like that. But that takes a while.
Okay.
And I knew how long it was going to take. And I was like, but I really want to do this Jake Sunrise story. So I was like, let me just put that aside. And I was like, and in fact, since I'm already working with this artist and I didn't have all the stories plotted out at the time, I was like, okay. I was like, hey, do you want to work on me with something? And he was like, yeah, of course. And so I thought, this guy knows how to draw women. Or he knows how to draw an attractive woman for sure. And I was like, so let me write a story that plays with that. And so he nailed her down. So that is almost his creation in a lot of ways. Because I just described kind of what I wanted. I didn't really say what clothes or anything. And he did that. That was the first picture that he drew of her behind you. And I was like, oh, wow. It reminds me of, I'm not sure if you or anyone watching would know, but like Dragon Lair or Space Ace.
Yep.
They were these two video games at the arcades, and back then they didn't have cool games that were that cool on your home consoles, and it was like playing a cartoon. The game was like playing a cartoon, and they had these damsel in distress characters that turned out to not really be damsel in distress characters.
Yep.
And if anyone goes back, you could probably find it on YouTube, and it's a short watch because it's just the cutscenes and the quick playthroughs that like. This character is really inspired a lot by those two stories because she starts out being like, oh, woe is me. And then kind of you start to see who she is and you're like, oh, nah, she's just a dude. You know what I mean? Like, she's just a person like the rest of us. She's just playing with you and she does that stuff. She knows how you see her and she's going to use that.
And I mean, and talk about that. You've got so much going into this and everything, and inspiration is one part, one side of the coin that goes into making a great indie because of what's put into it. The other side of it is what I want to go ahead and discuss very briefly on here is putting the passion into what you're doing there. So I'm going to ask you the question, what does it mean? What is your definition of putting the passion into the indies, into the work that you do on the indie side?
I think it means not ever saying that like, oh, that's good enough. Like I can't tell you. And, sometimes I feel like I step on toes. I studied art a little bit for a year. I'm an art school dropout, but I'm not really that good. So I'll mess sometimes with the colors, or sometimes I'll mess with certain things. Or like if one picture, the artist maybe forgot to draw the satchel, I'll find it in a different panel and I'll resize it. Or there's a little dangly thing on her necklace that I don't know why he put it on there in the first panel, because that means now you got to draw it in the whole comic. And so sometimes he'd forget to draw the little thing on her necklace. So I went in and I'd find one that fits, resize it, put it on there, color it. It means that like when the flatter sends me the flats, I recolor the flats. So that way when they get sent to the colorist, it's kind of, it's what I want. And because we're in different time zones, different countries, I know we're not going to be able to communicate regularly. So it's like, I got to get this. I got to put in my time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to learn all these other things. I had to learn how to video edit to make the trailer. Luckily, I'm also a musician, so I did the music for it myself. I didn't have to find royalty-free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a good mic because I'm a musician, so I did the voiceover myself. And that trailer took me like 4 months. You can't clock in and out on it. You're not looking at your hourly rate. You don't.
No.
And also don't look at how much you're investing in it unless it's affecting your personal funds outside, because that's not how it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it works. And you could maybe dream about it getting big, but what would that even mean? Like I know sometimes the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guys regret their decision.
Mm-hmm.
But they also probably have a lot of money. And I wouldn't judge either way. It's just like, don't have an idea of what you're going to do, because it's not going to happen the way you think it's going to happen. And if it did happen the way you thought it was going to happen, life would be really boring. So you got to be adaptable. plan ahead a little bit, but to some degree, a lot of it's just jazz. You're just improvising it as you go. But get started.
Yes.
You know, like I'm 41. I've been working on this Jake Sunrise idea for over 15 years. I don't know why I could have easily done this 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not hating myself for it, because I did things during those 10 years. But now it's like, hey, why didn't I do that before? And I think the only reason is because I thought it was going to get more perfect. I thought I was going to tool it somehow, and then it would just happen. But that's not really how it works, right? And that's where the passion comes in. The passion is like, oh shit, I don't have enough people back in my campaign. Okay. Do I believe in it? Like, are there things I can make better about it? You know, and you think about that, and maybe you adjust certain things. But then if you do believe in what you're doing, then it's just like, okay, I got to advertise it more. Mm-hmm. And, you know, to some degree, I bet people feel like beggars a little bit when they're advertising. It's a little bit like when you're asking for donations for a good cause. You know, you might feel like, yeah, I'm giving you something of value, but you're also asking for money. And so, a lot of times that never really feels great. But you got to stay strong and just be like, hey, look, I'm not really asking them for money. I'm offering a product. I believe in my product because I work hard on it. And if you're not working hard on it, you're going to know you're not working hard on it.
Exactly. And I mean, you say that, you know, you feel bad about the advertising or something, but there's really no reason to feel bad if it's done correctly. If you're going out there and you're telling people that, calling them names for not backing it, or, calling them out on things like that, you can't do that, of course. But for the reasons that you do it and the way that you do it, you get people on your side just because they see the value in it, not just necessarily dollar sign value. They see a dream becoming reality that's getting started on here. They're getting a part of the foundation of what's going into Low Midnight on this one, and they want to see what happens from there. Now, everybody kind of, again, they see me up here with the hat on, with the round glasses and everything, out of character of regular Demon Phil, because I wanted to do this because I believe in the project. This is not something that I would come up here and say, whatever up here, get dressed up and just kind of blow smoke and mirrors type thing. That's not who I am. People know who I am with these things. If I didn't believe in it, I wouldn't push as much. That's why I went ahead and changed up my schedule to make sure I had time to do this live today so we could talk about this. And I am ecstatic that we were able to get this thing funded while we were on here. That is awesome to me. That shows me right there that because of the passion that's put into this, other people see that and they want to go ahead and help you with that dream become a reality as well. And we proved that today, and that is awesome that we did.
That's cool.
Something that I want to ask you, kind of leading into the end of this one, because we got to give you time to get up there and do the dreaded, refresh every 5 seconds for the next 2 days. It's fun. But in going through, you got your first campaign now, and you've got this one under your belt. Of course, it's not ended yet, but we're at that point where you're funded. You can take that at least one breath, because you haven't, taken a breath in about a few days, at least, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But now that you can take that breath and you're moving forward on this, what is one thing positively that you've learned out of this that you want to transfer over to your next campaign?
One thing I'd want to transfer to my next one.
We asked the good questions on here.
Okay, I got it. It's never too early to start promoting it.
There you go.
Like, you can do it months ahead of time. Yes. I saw some people doing it when I was getting ready for mine, and I was like, nah, I don't want people to get bored with it or whatever. I don't think that's the way it works.
No.
I don't think it's too early to promote it. And I also think that people show more interest when you're just starting out and you're showing sketches and stuff like that. Once you start asking for money, you get a lot less thumbs up on your posts and a lot less upvotes on your Reddits. So promote it early. If you're like, I don't have enough to show them your process, especially if you're an artist. Film what you're doing. I don't know if there's a way to get your camera set up with whatever you have now. If you got to buy something and you can afford it, do it. Film your time lapses, or film, just if you do it digitally, film your screen. People love watching those time lapses. And I mean, I don't think they're going to like me just sitting there scratching my head as a writer. So there's not much I can offer on that end. but people like content. They like seeing the behind the scenes stuff. They really love, if you're going to show a finished page, I swear I got more thumbs up on like the page layouts than on, and I hope that's not I don't think that's a reflection of the artists.
No, not at all.
I think that's just how we are socially.
Well, exactly. And somebody like me, I definitely agree on that, because we're seeing the evolutionary process. We're seeing how it came from a thought and now it's to colors and it's complete on here. We're actually seeing that process. That's what draws people like me into there. Like you're talking about right now, seeing the, the roughs and seeing where you send something off with, stick figure sketches or whatever on there going, this is what I want to have. But then it becomes, this awesome thing. Like the cover we shown, let me show right up here one more time with the wolf back here and everything. I can guarantee you, everybody that's out there, this did not start off as this and just became colors and was done. It was a thought that went to paper and said, no, turn this, maybe change this pose, change where the claws are out this way. Something was in there, and those are the things we love seeing on there, because you see that evolution of that. That's what draws a lot of people to that. So it's not a matter of advertising, it's a matter of building your brand at that point. You're not advertising at the time. You're always showing something from your brand. As long as you show that you're ever present with your brand, people will pay attention, because they're like, okay, if he's excited about this, then I think I should be as well, because he's this excited to show me, this thing on a paper napkin in, a Waffle House from, 27 years ago, whenever he had the idea of this thing, to now it's actually a book in his hands. That means a lot to people. And that's something that a lot of people really need to look at and go, there's a lot more that goes into this than they think it does. Watching these shows will kind of help out with that too, because we kind of talk about the process. Whenever we talk about, flatters, letterers, editing, sketches, pencils, inks, colors, there is so much that is involved in this. And that's just the tip of the iceberg on getting into some of these things. So the next time you go to your comic book shop and you look in there and you go straight to the wall and you say, that one looks cool, I want to buy that one, but you don't even open it up or anything, maybe go ahead and think just for a moment what goes into doing that, and it'll give you a lot more respect for what you have in your hands. So something like this right here, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna say right now, y'all, see, you got the draw coming out already. Y'all need to get over there to this campaign and go ahead and back this thing before it's over with, and get a piece of this foundation. There's a lot of people out there that love first appearances and, first stories and things like that come out and all. This is what happens right here. This is the foundation for it. He's already got the world built and it's already in motion, and things will start happening fairly quickly after this one is, out there and done. So we're looking at, y'all need to get over there and get a piece of this one and then get ready, because Low Midnight is just getting started and this train is on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man.
Hey, nope, it's my pleasure. Absolutely. I'm going to give you full screen on this one, and now you need to let them know why they need to get over there and why they need to skin them smoke wagons and get over there and back this thing.
Cool. So, I mean, we're already backed. So why would you back it? I mean, the answer is that there's stretch goals. So my hope is, like I was saying earlier, I'm getting all this inventory from the Kickstarter funds, but I'm only getting that so I can fund the production on the art end. So if I get more backers, I open up the stretch goals. Now people who just bought a black and white, they also get a color edition. People that ordered one pin get both pins. People that ordered just the regular cover, maybe they get an art cover. If you're at the second highest tier, I might raffle off some mini busts, just depending on how many people we get involved. And you can also rest assured, you're not going to be waiting 6 months to get your stuff. I'm trying to get this stuff out so that it is in the mail at the beginning of December or the first week of December. So that way it beats most of the Christmas rush. And hopefully you'll get it before New Year's is my hope, is my dream. There's no way you should be waiting 2-3 months on this stuff. So I say back it. You're going to get your stuff. You're going to get it soon and you'll be happy with it. And you'll get more than you paid for.
There you go. You can't ask for any more than that right there. And like we already talked about, this is just the beginning. So what you're getting on this one and what you're investing in right here is actually going to be growing very quickly into some other stories that are out there that I am more than excited to get involved in as well, because I absolutely love this series as is. Just a little bit that I've seen on here, and I've seen just about as much as y'all have for the most part. Go over there, look at the campaign, and you'll see exactly everything that I've gone through, and weigh your own opinion on there. But remember, and I'm going to say this before we go ahead and start cutting this thing off, use the power of that finger, the correct one if you can, hit that share button, and make sure everyone else has a chance to see this thing. I cannot stress enough how much it means to the creators with the shares that are out there. They understand. They're not going to see, you know, $200 million, you know, campaign that comes off of here with the first, you know, done campaign. I think, you know, my guest would actually have a heart attack if he saw that on there and not be ready for it. So we don't want to do that to him. So what needs to be done, though, they love seeing shares, because then they see that other people not only support him in what he's doing, they understand, you know, not everybody can financially do it. But if they see the value in there and they're willing to take their time, because that's all it costs to use that finger and hit the share button, they actually appreciate that more than you know out there. It actually pushes them very hard to do what they do and keep doing what they're doing and keep their chin up doing this. And you never know, maybe even come up with some new and amazing stuff out there for stretch goals that they probably have been having on the back burner just in case, you know, something comes up big that they got on there. You never know. But they will always take care of who's out there, making sure that their product is getting the attention and the exposure that it needs. Again, use the finger. Power of the finger will go ahead and take you a lot of places there. Hit that share button. Make sure it's shared out to many more people out there, many more eyes. Let them make their own decision on what they want to do with this thing, because I'm telling you right now, there's going to be a lot of people who are backing this and moving forward with this brand. Don't blink on this thing. Dean, I appreciate you being on here. And again, I'm going to say on camera right now, I apologize for what happened, you know, with my StreamYard thing losing our previous video, but I think we did okay with this one. Plus, I got to get a little more dressed up for you this time, so I feel a little bit better on this one. But, no, I really appreciate it. I appreciate your patience on this. You have got some serious passion in the industry. I'm looking forward to seeing where you're going to be going with this thing. So you've got yourself not only a fan here, but a follower. And as long as you keep moving forward, we'll keep pushing you forward as well.
Thanks a lot, Phil. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, absolutely. If you want to hang out back, I'll be there in just a moment. Let me do my closing and we'll get right with you.
For sure.
All right. So we had a special hell of a show today. We were going over the return of Jake Sunrise by Dean Page up here. Again, the reason I did this is because we had an issue on there where my StreamYard actually lost some of our recorded videos on there, which I'm not happy about, but I can sit over here and cry about it and say that it's just StreamYard's fault and move on. Or I can do what I did here, do the right thing and reach out to Dean and say, we need to do a live and get you some stuff out here and make sure that you are funded, because I want to make sure that I did not have a problem on my end that cost you something. So I always have a closing statement. Tonight's not going to be different. It's usually, based on something my guest has said or something that's going on during the show. And tonight it is that as well. But I'm going to say it right now, it's kind of based on me a little bit more on this one. Not that I'm being selfish. Do the right thing. It's not a one-word thing, but it's a do the right thing. All you got to do is make things right, however you need to do that. If it means, doing a show live like I've done today out of my regular schedule on there, that's fine. As a creator, if you've got something out there that's taking a little bit longer to fulfill, go ahead and do the communication out there. That's the right thing. If you've got something out there that is not quite making it on the backing and you want to get some more backers out there, ask for more backers the right way, of course. Do the right thing. That's the right thing on there. It's all about doing the right thing. So you take that to the nth degree on there and say it's not just about the industry, it's about life in general. Do the right thing, because karma always comes back however you send it out. Keep that in mind next time. So until next time, and I am dressed for this one today, keep it indie, y'all.
Settle into sockets, flip the switch and watch them run. Take it back, the crowd. I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it. Oh yeah, the crowd. So close I can taste it. I see what's mine.